Have you ever reported a shoplifter? 0207 862 2222, that's the number. Do get your calls in now, please. According to the British Retail Consortium, almost a quarter of Brits say they've seen someone shoplift in the past year. I know I have. Definitely. The crime has hit record rates, but fewer than 1 in 5 offences last year resulted in a charge or a summons. Stores across the country are reporting on average 2 thefts a minute to police, but it's believed the police recorded figures are just a fraction of the total amount stolen, with most shops only informing police if they catch an offender in the act or they have CCTV. So would you report somebody if you saw them? Do get in touch. Yasmin, I believe it's the opposite with you.
Well, I think there are two kinds. We have to distinguish between some people who take stuff because they simply can't afford to pay for them. So the really poor, and the cost of living, especially over these last few months when the cost of living, that's a different kind of thing from the very organised, and I've seen organised. So I would report, organised shoplifting. It's on an industrial scale. And small shops especially are really bullied and intimidated and
also
really
big shops and huge
now.
chains. I mean, I interviewed the chairman of the co-op who said that these raids by organised, targeted gangs of shoplifters, they ring the police don't even show up. That's what he told me.
But I really feel that as this Labour government is showing indifference to the poorest in our society, that sector will steal more.
All right, but let's talk about what you've actually done. What did you do? What happened?
I said this on this programme a few months ago, that I was in a big supermarket and there was this woman and a security officer were shouting at her and she was crying, and she'd taken some nappies and hidden them in her pram, in the pushchair. And I just felt so bad about that I said, oh, she's with me. Because I didn't want her to be humiliated. I mean, any one of us could find ourselves in this position.
And how did it help that you said she's with me if she'd taken them?
So I paid for it.
Oh, you paid for them for her?
And so they let her go.
Oh, OK, you paid for them for her.
Yeah.
And
I even gave her my number to say, if you need more milk and nappies, ring me, but she never did.
I mean, do you think there's a distinction between those stealing because they're desperately in need and they're hungry, simple as that, and those stealing because they want to sell it later on in the pub for money, or they're doing it because they're part of a gang or organised crime? Do you think you need to make that distinction, or are they all just thieving anyway? It's all theft.
Vanessa, there is a distinction between the people who Yasmin was helping and others, but let's be frank about this. The people who Yasmin's talking about make up a tiny proportion of the people who are stealing from shops. Shop theft is an epidemic. We have such an enormous problem, and the only way that we can fix this is make people fear the result of shoplifting. A simple rule that the second time you're caught shoplifting, you are jailed for a year, punished severely because of what you've done, needs to put people off. Why does nobody shoplift in Dubai? Because they fear the consequences of what will happen to them. Shoplifting is such a problem, and this is the stat that really scares me. For everything we buy, 6p, the equivalent of 6p, is down to shoplifting.
Yes,
and
it's
the pressure,
not a victimless crime. It's
and the
far
pressure,
from victimless,
exactly,
isn't
and the
it?
pressure these
for it.
small shops are under because of what is happening. I recently went to a shop, and there was someone with a pram, a man with a pram, and he was by the meat aisle, and I was thinking, this guy looks suspicious. He's got his hood up, and he's putting in piece after piece of chicken, 6 pieces of chicken, and then he puts a baby's blanket over the chicken. And I went and told the security.
Did they take any notice?
They did. They challenged him and they rugby tackled him to the ground.
OK, don't go anywhere. We're just in the middle of a rugby tackle to the ground. We're taking your calls on this right after the break. But now let's get straight to your calls on whether you would be prepared to dob in a shoplifter if you caught them in the act. Almost 1 in 4 people in the UK say they have seen someone shoplifting in the past year. 0207 862 2222. That's the number. Let's go straight to Claire in Leeds. Hello, Claire. Did you see someone and did you dob them in?
I work in a supermarket and we had 4 in one night.
Gosh.
And it was the same gang all the time. They're coming constantly. And it has taken over thousands of pounds worth of meat for the police to finally do something about it. Now, before I wouldn't have batted an eyelid. But now seeing it, and having to deal with it at work, it drives me insane.
I'm not surprised. Tell me how it works. Do they all arrive at once? And are they shoving the meat into their clothes? Or just describe what happens, if you wouldn't mind, Claire.
There was one particular girl, she was stood vaping inside the store near the door as you come in. And I was looking at her and I was thinking, there's something wrong here. She was like a decoy for somebody else who'd gone onto the meat aisle.
Oh.
And then she ran out with a basket full of steaks, meat, joints, a lot of money.
And so you think deliberately they put her there vaping so that one of you would come along and say, listen, you're not allowed to vape inside the store, and then they'd nick all the meat and the stuff while you were distracted by her. Tell me what's happened now the police have come to the aid a bit, at least woken up a bit.
Well, basically, they did a raid on a house and arrested some people. It was quite funny. They put it on Facebook and they called it a stakeout.
OK, at least you can laugh. You can still laugh. When Yasmin talked, though, about that young mum, she thinks, shoplifting the nappies, do you feel sympathy for people like that? Or do you think theft is theft, just don't take it, it's not yours, you can't have it?
I do have sympathy for people that are really struggling because the cost of living is ridiculous at the moment.
Yeah.
But the people that we've been getting at work are just, they're just out for whatever they can get, really.
Exactly. Exactly. It's a bit of a red herring. I feel sorry for those people too, but poor, Claire having to deal with that. And I just wonder, how physical does it get, Claire? So do people actually rugby tackle them? How do they stop them?
Well, to be fair, we're not actually allowed as staff to do anything. It's down to the managers. But even when they've tried to tackle them, they can't really do anything about it. We could get sacked for chasing them out of the store.
Oh.
That's ridiculous. It's just painful to hear this. It's painful to hear these stories. And it is because people think they can get away with it. We've just got to the stage where people think they can go into a shop, steal lots of meat, and there'll be no repercussions.
Well, they think they can get away with it because they can get away with it. They're quite right to think so.
1%
And also,
end up convicted.
it's kind of anything under the value of £200, forget about it, and then everybody ends up paying. Claire, thank you so much. Let's go to Ilanda, who's in London. Hello there. Tell me about shoplifting. Have you seen it yourself?
Yeah. It happens quite a lot around there because obviously people are, taking drugs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've got a good friend of mine just further down, but he's at JD Sports. He's actually a manager. So it gets really difficult for these people working in stores because they've got no security guard in there.
Right.
Their job obviously is just to sell to the public, and what they do, they have to put one of the staff next to the door there to actually keep an eye on the whole shop. And because if they don't do that, they're going to get people coming in and just grabbing stuff and taking it.
And tell me something, the guy that's on the door watching, is it worth it to him to chase someone down?
In that store, yeah.
They do?
They have to, yeah, because, then they have to put someone there, like a security guard there next to the main door, because if they don't have that, a lot of them crackers will be coming in and start taking stuff and walking out. So, I had an incident one time out of nowhere. I'm just heading to the shop to go and see him. Then you've got a guy that comes in there. Is at a supermarket bag. He starts putting all the Adidas slippers inside the bag and then slowly he's walked off. And lucky the police were going past. I said, please, can you grab him and take him? So, what's happening is that it's not good for people to say, the cost of living, that's why people are going to stores and nicking. The more people use them words, the more you're going to start, to see this continue.
Absolutely. Good to talk to you, Ilanda. Thank you very much indeed. Let's go to Ian in Hertfordshire. Hello, Ian.
Hiya.
So you've got a different view, really, about this.
Yes. I used to be a bouncer at a pub.
Yes.
And you can see the different sides of people's lives and
Sure.
how they're struggling. And I think the guy that you've got there absolutely has no clue what he's talking about.
This is Rick. You don't think he has any clue. Why? What have you seen that gives you a very different view, Ian?
Well, he just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well, tell us then. What should he know that he doesn't know, do you think?
Well, people are struggling, and I've stopped people before from stealing and made them put it back.
But now?
Well, it's just the fact that they put it back and I felt guilty afterwards, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Well, Ian, I mean, I've been pretty clear. I've said that people who are shoplifting, causing problems for the rest of us, adding to the price of food for all of us in the UK, should be punished. And you don't agree with that?
I just don't think you know what you're talking about, to be honest with you.
Well, you know, we've asked you to give an example or something or other that would change Rick's mind, but you haven't done that. So, Ian, thanks a lot for calling, and thank you for all your calls on shoplifting. Don't forget, later on...